Hi, I'm Tamarind, and welcome to the Wizard's Kitchen. Every week, I'm going to share with you recipes from my kitchen that I love to make, new recipes that we can try together. Maybe we'll have some laughs and hopefully create a community around food in my little corner of the internet. So let's get started. Today, we're going to make a potato and turnip casserole. And I don't use turnips that much from the grocery store. This is a turnip, but we subscribe to Odd Bunch Canada, which is a food rescue based produce subscription box, and they have given us some turnips this week and some potatoes. And so I decided to make this dish. It is creamy, it is cheesy, it's everything you basically need to survive winter. I'm going to peel the potatoes and the turnips, and turnips are a root vegetable that have a similar texture to potato-ish. They remind me a little bit of water chestnuts, to be honest, but they're pretty hardy and sturdy. You could make this with any root vegetable. You just might have to vary the cooking times a bit if you wanted to make it with butternut squash or sweet potatoes or any combination thereof. The key would be to slice them similar thickness so that they cook at relatively the same time. If you see here, this is my half a lemon that I had from my avocado this morning. So I just dropped it in this water to keep the potatoes from oxidizing, from turning brown. It wouldn't be a huge deal if they did, but we just prefer that they don't. And so they can just hang out in there. The turnips don't really need it. And then for the turnip, you'll see it has a little wonky end. So I'm going to cut that off and then cut off the top. That just makes it simpler. And then I'm going to use a vegetable peeler I have my little bowl on the side here. This dish is simple. My kids aren't extremely picky eaters, but they can be picky about how they eat certain things. Certain things they're not going to touch. Like for some reason, mushrooms have made it on the absolutely not list. But they will eat a lot of vegetables, depending on how you prepare them. And of course, a cheese sauce is always a surefire way to get kids. Now we're going to slice the turnips, and you want them to be pretty thin. And I'll put the camera closer when I'm done so that they don't take a long time to cook. Just watch your fingers there. A sharp knife is easier for this. And you can see about that thickness. I don't know what that is. Maybe a millimeter? An eighth of an inch? Something along those lines. And you're going to cut up all the slices and do the potatoes the same size. And I thought of this recipe because I have this block of cheese, and I'll show it to you. It's a Guinness cheddar, and I don't know where my husband bought it, but it was on sale. And so I thought this would be really cool. Okay, so we have our pile of turnips, pile of potatoes. I'm just slicing up the last of the potatoes. And again, like I said, the aim is to have these the same thickness, more or less, so that they cook at the same time. You don't want some to be crunchy and some to be thin. So there we have it. Pile of turnips, pile of potatoes. Okay, I've got a dish here, and I'm not going to do any fancy layering right now, or ever. Because you could, but that's not really necessary. So I'm just going to load everything up in here. And then I'm going to season it in this same dish. So we don't need to get another dish. And this is the potatoes, the turnips, and the thinly sliced onion that I'm going to put in here. Truly, I would have also wanted to put some chopped garlic, but apparently I don't have any, which is completely insane. So I'll have to get some at the store today. So I'm going to put some garlic powder. Not the same, but you know, we got to use what we have. Okay, so all of these are in here. On the top of this, we're going to pour some olive oil. And I'm just going to mix that up so that everything is coated in that olive oil, individual pieces. And then we're going to use some salt. You need a good amount of salt. Do not be shy. This is pink salt, if you're wondering why it looks a little funny. And then I'm going to use dried thyme, about a teaspoon maybe. Like I said, I didn't have any more garlic, so I'm going to use some garlic powder. Ooh, my eyes are burning. Okay. All right. Now we're going to do some cracked pepper. And mix it up again. Make sure everything's mixed. And then you want the layers to be a bit evenly mixed here. So I'm gonna put it down like this after the seasoning. And if you wanted to, you could take these all out of the pan and kind of shingle them in a perfect style, but I'm not gonna do that because most of the time I'm rushing to do something else. So there we go. That's ready. And now we're going to make the roux. For the roux, in this warm saucepan, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. Then I'm going to add in about a 1/4 cup of flour. And then I'm going to stir this. We want the flour to cook out the raw taste, and this is on relatively low. While that's doing that, I have here a cup and a half, sorry, of this is bone broth because that's what I had, but you could use any sort of broth or stock, vegetable or chicken, and I'm going to put it in the microwave. It is much easier to incorporate, and I'm going to slowly incorporate this. And it's much easier to incorporate it if you're not trying to dump a cold liquid into the roux. So that's why I stuck it in the microwave. You could also warm it up in a pot. So as you will see, I'll stir it until it's smooth and keep adding the rest of the broth. I'm also going to stir in about 2/3 of a cup of evaporated milk. You could use half and half. You could also use regular whole milk. You can add a cashew milk or something like that if you and use olive oil or avocado oil or another type of oil if you wanted to make this vegan and add vegan cheese. So we're going to let this do what it's doing, and we're going to grate the cheese. Okay, while the roux is cooking, it's going to really thicken up, and then we'll add some seasoning there. I'm going to grate this cheese on the large side of a box grater. As I said, this is Guinness cheddar. Doesn't this look cool? You can use regular cheddar, Monterey Jack, any cheese vibe you like, sharp cheddar, white cheddar, Fontina, but this seemed cool. And like I said, it's what I had, and it was on special, and it's really tasty. I took a piece to see kind of what the vibe was, if I was gonna like it, and it tasted like it would do well. Kind of like bear cheese, which, I mean, why am I doing this? Oh, it feels awkward because I'm left-handed. I'm like, wait, what's happening? So I'm gonna grate this entire block, and this is gonna end up being about a cup and a half-ish of cheese, and I'm gonna save a little bit back for the top. And there you go, cheese pile. Okay, here's our roux cooking along. You can, it's getting quite thick as the flour and butter does its trick. I've added fresh ground pepper and I've added some salt. to taste, I would just put maybe a little salt to start, because the cheese also has salt, so you probably want to taste it after you add the cheese to see if you need to adjust the salt. And then this trick, I don't know exactly whose culture this is from, but is nutmeg. Putting a little bit of nutmeg inside of bechamel sauces. And you can't really taste it to say, ooh, that's nutmeggy. You shouldn't, because if you did, you put too much. Just a tiny, tiny little pinch. And it makes it taste better. Now that this is thickened, I'm going to add in the cheese. And we're going to let that cheese melt in there, come together, adjust for salt as we need, and then that part will be done. And as you can see, this hasn't taken a very long time. You could have this put together and bake it the next day and keep it in the fridge. Like, just let this sauce cool down, then pour it on top and put the whole thing in the fridge. You always want to give everything a taste. So here it is. You see it's thick. It'll coat the spoon. That is good. That would be just a good dip. Like if you had some pretzels. Yum. And just, it doesn't have a ton of Guinness flavor, but it does taste reminiscent of bear cheese. The last thing I'm gonna do is chop some parsley. This also came in the Odd Bunch. I'm gonna do about 2 tablespoons and just fold that into the roux at the end for some freshness. Just dump the parsley over the dish instead. So here we have it. We're going to pour this. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Pour this all over the top. I'm going to cover this in foil, and then I'm going to put it in the oven for about 20 minutes. And then I'm going to take the foil off, add the extra shredded cheese on top, and let it brown. So stay tuned. All right, look at that bubbling. That's after 20 minutes. So now I take the foil off, and I'm going to spread just the last of the cheese. This part isn't 100% necessary, but anyway, I like it. Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn my radio off, but you know, whatever. That's how I roll. There it is. All right, there it is out of the oven, nice and bubbly. And all I'm gonna do to finish this off is to add some more fresh chopped parsley. And you let it sit for a bit, let all the bubbles settle down. The sauce will re-thicken a bit, and then it's ready to serve. Anyway, I hope you enjoy my first installment in the Wizard's Kitchen, and let's see what we cook up next week. If you have something that you want to make, or you want me to make, then leave it in your comments. Remember to subscribe and share. Thank you. Bye bye.